What's up, everybody? Chris Martinez here. I am the host of Operation Agency Freedom, the #1 podcast in the universe. In this episode, we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people are struggling with, which is training your new team members. So how to train your new team members so that you can get them up and running as fast as humanly possible. Every single agency owner that I know is hiring people right now or looking for people. Part of that is fueled by growth, meaning that you're selling a ton and you need people to be able to complete projects. Part of that is also fueled by losing people. So all agencies are having a hard time retaining employees. Those employees are getting offered jobs at other places, getting paid way more money, or they're deciding to go into a different career altogether. So those are some of the challenges that agencies are facing when it comes to hiring. And so now, once you are starting your recruiting and you have these people that are joining your company, you need to figure out what's the process that you're going to take to get these folks trained so that they are able to get up and running as fast as possible. If you're hiring people right now, if you have team members that you feel like you haven't yet gotten the most out of, even though they've been with you for a few months, then this is definitely an episode that you're going to want to listen to. And of course, I'm going to put all the notes, anything that I reference, I'll put that on the dudeagency.io podcast page so you can check out that and get any references that I make. And if you haven't done so already, if you could do me a huge favor and just subscribe to my podcast, I would really, really appreciate it. That way, of course, you'll also be in the know the next time that we have an episode dropping. So with that being said, let's head over and I'm going to show you how to train your new team members. All right, welcome back. So as I was mentioning, everybody is hiring right now. I don't know a single agency that is not looking for people. Either they're replacing somebody that left, or they are growing so fast and they need people to help them keep up with the demand. This is going to continue to be the #1 challenge for agency owners, is finding talent. So let's talk about, how we're going to get the most out of that talent. And if you don't have a good process in place, not only are you slowing down your ability to get these people into the position that you hired them to do, but you're also creating a lot of unnecessary work and aggravation for the people that are responsible for training these folks. So I'm guessing that most of you guys do not have an in-house HR team that's just responsible for training team members. Bigger companies, they have whole departments that they're using to train their people. Most of us don't have that. I mean, our HR department does oversee the training, but even we do not have an entire department dedicated to training. I remember when I started out in my very first job out of college, working for Pitney Bowes, slanging those postage machines way back in the early 2000s. And they had an entire facility for training. Pitney Bowes was a Fortune 500 company. And so they would fly every single new team member out to Atlanta. Actually, it was Peachtree City, so just outside of Atlanta. And they basically had a campus. And they had all kinds of, obviously, classrooms, and they had a whole training staff that lived in Atlanta. And that was their full-time job, was just training people and getting them up to speed as fast as humanly possible. So, that's like one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have us, you have agency folks. And, our hearts are in the right place. We want to bring on these people and help them to be successful, but we're being pulled in so many different directions that it really is hard to have focused time to get your people trained, get these new people trained. And, another kind of downside to that is that when you have a team member that comes in, they're super excited. They're very excited about the company and their position, and they see a bright future ahead. And if we don't have a good training program in place, then we might miss out on that excitement, and they might become jaded and resentful to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a very simple framework that you can use to train your new team members. And everybody is different. Every agency is different. So you can, take some of this and implement it, take some of it and, move the order around. But if there's one thing that you do, please start with what I'm about to tell you. So let's say we make the offer. It's Monday. Our team member, I don't know, what should we call our team member today? Jenny. So Jenny is going to start on, Jenny makes me think of Forrest Gump, by the way. So Jenny starts on Monday. So what's the first thing that we should have them do? So a lot of the times what I see with agencies is they'll introduce them to the team at the Monday morning meeting, and then they'll start, shadowing people, or they'll walk around and get a chance to meet everybody and spend like 5 minutes with everybody. To me, that's a giant waste of time. Obviously, yes, introducing them to the team on the morning meeting, that's important, make them feel welcomed. But, there's so many emotions going through that person that, in my opinion, it's going to be kind of a waste of time if we're trying to get them to focus on production labor stuff the first day. There's going to be some HR stuff that they got to do, so you got to take care of that as well. But what I call the first 2 days, we're going to call it 1 to 2 days, is essentially the indoctrinization period. And that might sound ominous to you, but trust me, it comes from a good place. I'm telling you, this is very, very important. So essentially, the first 2 days are introducing that new team member to the company. So what we do is we have a day to maybe 2 days of just teaching that team member about who we are, our company culture, some of the tools that we use to do the work, but really just explaining to that person the tidbits that they got in the interview process, and really starting to show them our values and how we're different than everybody else that's out there and what to expect. So our team has created like a company training video. They have like a cartoon that they named Taquito, which is a little blue dog. And essentially, like, we're training them for the entire day about who we are. So we talk about things like the company history, right? We talk about how before I started Dude, I had a soccer magazine and it failed miserably, and start telling these stories that have led us to this amazing company that they're now a part of. We'll also review the company culture and the core values, and we'll talk about the history behind that. Now, our company core values are very different than everybody else that's out there. Our management style is very different than everybody else that's out there. So we want to talk to them about that and explain to them how we got here and why this is so important to us. We'll also do a little, probably like end the day or end the 2 days, just talking about the ticketing system and what it is what we use that for, and like some of the tools, but not getting too much into the tools. Now, believe it or not, if you do this right, considering all the other things that are going on, this can take up a full day. And very easily it can be 2 full days. So like if you're looking at, or if you're thinking about how to incorporate this into your company, maybe there's some key team members that you would want to have them interview with, or, you can always record those too, and those become video trainings. We do put everything on Trainual. So big shout out to my buddy, Chris Ronzio. We've been using Trainual for years. It's a fantastic software to train your folks. So that's the first 2 days. So let's say now we're going into Wednesday. So Wednesday is what starts our leveling up period. Okay. So what do I mean by leveling up? So everybody that we hire, they've gone through a very, very stringent interview process. We've had them go through multiple tests, multiple technical tests, personality tests, obviously multiple rounds of interviews. And so you would think that they are good to go, right? That's not the case. Like, no matter who you hire, I would encourage you to do what we call the leveling up. So what leveling up means is not necessarily that we're checking that they have the right skill sets, but it's standardizing the quality of work, the tools that we use, timelines, communication standards, all of those things. Now, that leveling up period is going to be very, very unique to you because you have different processes. Because you have different processes, then you're going to have to teach that new team member how you guys do things. And 99 times out of 100, they've never done the work the same way that you're going to have them do it. So that's like basically the rest of the week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all you're doing is having them level up. So making sure that they know the turnaround times, the communication standards. We do a daily deadline meeting making sure they understand how that meeting is conducted and what they are expected to do on that meeting. QA, QC, things like that, our ticketing system that we use. And we have a head of design and a head of development that ultimately helps that new team member get through that leveling up period. Now, they continue to meet with that head of at least once a week for the next month, just to kind of check in. But those first few days are very, very hands-on. We still have all those trainings inside of Trainual, so we can still house them there, but it's just basically the next phase. So just to review, phase one, let's do the indoctrinization period, completely immerse them in our company culture, get them on board with who we are as a company. Days 3 through 5, which would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, is the leveling up period. So making sure that they are at the standard and that they know how everything is supposed to go. Okay. So that's essentially the full week. Now, some people are going to get through that a lot faster. Some people are going to take a little bit longer. That's okay. But typically it should be about a week of just going through that. So why do we slow it down? So the benefit of that is that the person now feels a lot more comfortable with the work and they're not worried about all the other things that are out there. Like, how do I, make a request for a vacation? Who's my direct manager? What are my completion times supposed to be? What's the process that I'm supposed to follow? If you can get all of that out of the way, now the person can really focus on learning how to do the work. So I highly recommend that you spend at least that first 1 to 2 days with the indoctrinization period, and highly would recommend doing the leveling up at least for a day or two. So let's just jump ahead. So now we're into weeks 2 and 3. So now that we've gotten all the other parts out of the way, let's start diving into the work. The new candidates feeling confident. They're really excited about the company. They believe in the mission. They believe in the owner and the leadership team. And so then what we do is we assign them to a team. So we have little pods. So we would assign them to the team, and then they have their team leader. Now we do these things called daily deadline meetings, which are like mini stand-up meetings every single morning, about 15 minutes. And so they're going to have that daily communication with their team leader and the rest of their team members. But we also make sure that new team member knows that they can reach out to their team leader as often as they want, whether that be through Slack or on the weekly calls or whatever. But we make sure that the team member knows that they have direct lines of communication with their team leader. And they're typically talking multiple times a day. Even though the person went through the first week of training, there's still obviously going to be a lot more trainings. And they're still getting familiar with things like time tracking or using the ticketing system or how to respond to a ticket that gets assigned to them, things like that. And so as long as you have the immediate and open lines of communication, then you can get through those things pretty quickly. And assuming that you hired the right person, they're going to be a self-starter. They're going to be pretty intelligent. They're going to be fast to learn anyways. So we basically follow that kind of like shadowing period for weeks 2 and 3, basically. So they might not be taking on the biggest projects to start, which makes sense. But little by little, they're making progress. They're essentially proving to themselves and to their team leader and the head of operations, head of design, all those folks, that the work is quality. And then we can start giving them a little bit more to do and a little bit more to do. By week 4, the person is essentially operating independently. And from there on, again, it's just giving them small incremental improvements. Now, the one thing that we've done that I don't see a lot of other agencies doing is that we have job descriptions for the different positions. So when you look at, let's just take a developer, right? You have like your entry level, you have your mid-level, and then you have your senior. And each of those can also have certain specialties. So maybe you have an e-commerce specialist, maybe you have a HubSpot specialist, maybe you have a digital marketing specialist, PPC specialist, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can have different specialists. But essentially, you want to create a hierarchy. And the most important part is that you have to list out what are the criteria for those different hierarchy. So I was listening to a podcast, I think it was on like one of the Harvard podcasts, and they were talking about management and how management is just completely transformed since the pandemic started 2 years ago. One of the things that, like, if you were to interview with a company, one of the things that you need to be asking to the people that are interviewing you, essentially like the owners or the leadership team, is how do you gauge the success of one team versus another? It's very, very important. So think about that from your perspective as the agency owner. How are you gauging what teams and what team members are successful? What are the metrics that we're looking at to gauge that? Your team members want to know how they can advance. So it's really important that you have this mapped out and that you can look at actual data, not just feelings, but we want to look at facts so that we can evaluate every single team member. So from week 4 on, essentially, we are putting that new team member on their growth track, and we're monitoring the progress as they progress. Part of our role as managers is if we see them veering off course or they're not advancing as quickly as we expect them to, let's figure out why so then we can go back in and address any issues and get them moving forward. Your team members should be pretty autonomous at the end of 90 days, 100%. They should be able to complete way more work. They should know the systems, the processes, the communication channels, what is expected of them. All of that should be taking place in the first 90 days. If it's not happening, or if you recognize that your team members are getting frustrated, or that they feel like they don't know what they're supposed to be working on, or you feel like maybe the productivity is off, or you see that they're getting pulled in a bunch of different directions, that's a big problem for you as the owner. And you need to focus some time as to measuring what do I actually need them to do. A lot of the times I see agency owners getting in the way of their team members. And so I just really quickly, I want to mention this to you, that I believe that the role of a leader or an owner specifically is to find the best people possible, give them the tools to be successful, and then just get the fuck out of the way. You do not need to be involved in every little detail. If you find amazing people that are better at certain skill sets or better at all the skill sets that you're not good at or that you shouldn't be working on, then they're actually going to find a way to do it better than you. It might be different than the way that you're doing it, but who's to say that your way is the perfect way? If you set up your metrics for how you're going to measure this individual and they've gone through your training program, they understand what we're trying to accomplish as a company, they understand what they're responsible for in accomplishing that mission, then there's really not a lot that you need to do. Now, it does take a certain level of confidence as a leader that you've got the right person and that they're going to be successful. Like, you can't be that helicopter parent. If you're doing that, guess what? That's on you. That's something that you need to work on. If you can fix that, then you'll learn how to be a better leader. But ultimately, you are there to guide them and help them to be successful. Give them all the tools they need, push them in the boat. And then if things start to go way off track, give them advice on how to get it fixed. But essentially, you just need to get out of their way. You just need to let them do the amazing shit that you hired them to do. So just to recap, that's the advice that I have for you on how to train your new team members. So week 1, which is for the first couple of days, are indoctrinization days, where we're teaching them about the company and the culture and the story and all the amazing things that make you amazing. Then the rest of the time, days 3 through 5, that's the leveling up period where we're ensuring that they have the skills that we need. They know how to use the software. They know the standards that we expect of them. And they're introduced to the head of department. So for us, it's like head of design, head of development. And then week 2, we get them with their team. They get introduced to their team leader. Again, they're still learning. They're kind of shadowing projects. Little by little, we're giving them a little bit more responsibility, some more complex projects. We don't want to overload them or overwhelm them and have them get discouraged. And so that process of kind of shadowing will take 2 to 3 weeks. And then by the 4th week, they should be pretty autonomous where they can start taking on new projects. They're obviously continuing to learn. Learning never stops in our industry anyways. And ultimately, we're just putting them on that growth plan, pushing them in the water, and then just making sure that they don't veer too far off course and giving them coaching and guidance so that they can continue to grow into the person that we saw that they could become. So that's it for today's podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please, please, please take my words to heart. These tactics that I gave you, these training techniques that I gave you, they work. We produce so many amazing people. Just follow the template that I've laid out in front of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And then, of course, if you just want somebody else to kind of take this all off your hands, feel free to reach out to us at dudeagency.io. You can schedule an appointment and we can talk about how we can help you with the training aspect of it, but a whole slew of other things from fulfillment to finance to operational efficiency. We do all that for you. All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you could share it with your friends, family, and basically anyone who will find the same value in this episode that you did. And to get the latest from me, then let's definitely connect on social media. You can go to Facebook, facebook.com/Dude Agency, or Instagram @dudeagency.io, or you can check us out on YouTube on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, you can always visit our website at dudeagency.io, where you can see all of our other episodes of Operation Agency Freedom. You can also register for any live trainings that we have going on how to run a highly profitable agency. And of course, you can see how we help digital agencies with the people, the processes, and the education so that they can take on more projects and scale profitably. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.